Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 139 of Geeks Chasing Squirrels Across the Multiverse podcast. My name is still Greg, the Bat Daddy 52, and I had a little opening tagline I was going to use, but after discussing things with everybody, I don't want any spoilers. So I'm going to forget that little tagline I had and say what's up. What's going on to everybody? But we're here this week. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Got some premieres. Got a movie to briefly talk about. Got a creator with us about to talk about his comic book. And I got the usuals with me. Sarah, what's going on?
Hi, fellas. Like I said, I'm back from the land of the living. Finally, feel like I'm back to myself. So yeah, let's do this.
You look like you're feeling 1,000 times better.
Oh
That's
God,
awesome.
yes, absolutely. Screw. I hate allergies. They suck.
Yeah, they definitely do.
You just want to get in a ball in the corner, hack it all out.
God, I'm just like drill into my face so I can just relieve all that pressure. That was what was killing me. But made it back.
There you go. Ross, how you doing, bud?
I'm tired. Been a physical week. Working on a big ass deck.
That thing is huge, man.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
It's pretty amazing. You got some pretty good work going on there. I'm impressed. I do a lot of stuff with my hands, but that's pretty impressive. We've also got special guest creator with us, Phillip. Is it Maira?
Myra.
Phillip Maira. Phillip Maira, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Just same like everyone else, just waiting. Just excited for the weekends. Just want to get the work week behind me and just relax for about 2 days.
I hear you. That's the way to do it.
It's been the longest short week ever.
Yeah, it was
That's right. It's a short week.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think about it until you just mentioned that. It has been a short week. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, this is a good way to get the weekend kicked off. Talking about some fun stuff with some friends. And Phillip, we got you on here today because you are a creator, and we're going to talk about some of your work here. So I'll just let you take the reins here and get us going with your work.
All right. So for those that aren't familiar, my name is Phillip Maira. I'm a comic book writer from Chicago. I'm mostly known for my annual anthology series called Crackle, where I write all the stories and I collaborate with artists from all over the world. This new endeavor is a larger task. I'm trying a new adventure, and it's called Purple Eyes, and it's an expansion upon a story that was within Crackle Volume 3. And in this world, you get 73 minutes before you die, your eyes turn a vibrant purple. Absolutely nothing you can do to resolve that. It's 100% accurate. There's no medical alleviation. There's no choices you can make. It's like I said, it's 100% accurate. And yeah, Sean Dicker and Justin Birch and I created the original story. Like I said, that was in Crackle Volume 3. But there was something there. There was that story pitch premise. And even like everyone listening now, your brain can kind of fire off, like, you're playing with different stories in your head. Like it's just, it's a story prompt, but I'm going in circles. It's been a long week.
No, you're good, man.
But yeah, so for this anthology was somewhat new because, like I said, all the previous ones I was the main writer, and this time I wanted to have an open submission. So I had submissions open for 6 weeks, got 185 pitches, and I tried to narrow it down to at least 12, and that didn't work because there were just so many brilliant ideas that revolved around just like these small parameters. Just the 73-minute time limit and the Purple Eyes and the 100% accuracy. Those were the only parameters that I gave, and then obviously it would be a short story. But yeah, I couldn't choose 12. So I expanded upon it to 18 because there were just so much brilliant ideas and creators that I had no idea existed. And like looking through everyone's portfolios, everything feeds off of each other and is a smooth blend. So there was a few supernatural stories. There's some revenge stories. There's the usual action stories, obviously. There's sports. There's medical drama. There's just heartfelt stories. People dying of natural causes, having purple eyes. Like it was a wide variety of ideas and creators that participated, and put pitches in. And yeah, after I received all the pitches and I finalized which stories are going to be in this book, it ended up being 33 of us, which is a lot. So we have been trying to do something a little bit unique that I haven't really seen in indie comics, let alone mainstream comics, is we're meeting at least once a week, once every other week, to link these stories together as much as possible. And we're trying to figure out the best ways to narratively link and visually link. So narratively meaning like the main character of story 4 is the sibling of main character of like the 9th story.
Almost creating a universe almost.
Yeah, like we're not trying to like make Easter eggs, because Easter eggs can kind of just seem like gotcha type of things.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to come up with like more rewards for like astute readers. It's like I said, make the thing feel lived in more. One of the stories we have, Scott Arnold is doing the writing and the drawing, and he has a story about a music producer, and in this music producer's contract, he's like a famous music producer. Everyone wants to have him work on their music, and if you get Purple Eyes, if you're going to die soon during when your contract is still with him, there's a clause that says that you have to record music on a new song on the spot and record it, and that would be his music producers. They can do whatever he can do what he wants with it. Or else, if you don't do that and you die during your contract, then you will not, your loved ones or your estate or whatever will not get residuals and stuff. You breach contract.
Huh.
And yeah, the idea is that the producer wants to do a 27 track album of all these Purple Eyes people, to a nod to the 27 Club. But then that builds off of now we have band posters and song lyrics and musicians and band names and musicians you can put on T-shirts throughout all these stories. It just like that kind of feels maybe, I guess, a little Easter eggy. We're just trying to fill in the world that much more and make it feel living.
Right. I mean, it makes it feel more connected for sure. Okay, so you sent us the work and you sent us the one comic which has the actual artwork and I guess the finished product what we're looking at, which I'm going to start displaying here in a moment. But you'd also sent us the synopsis or the 4 to 5 sentence summary of other stories. And as I'm reading this, I'm looking through it, and the only thing that it has to do, or the other have to do with each other, is the Purple Eyes, and it's an anthology, so different stories of the people. So I'm looking for the main storyline, or there's a storyline running through there, which is what you're talking about, putting that little bit of in there, because even within this series, the only thing, or at least these stories I saw, the main thing running through them is the Purple Eyes, but you do have comedy, or not? You do have a little bit of comedy. You have a little bit of romance. Different types of genres in these storylines. So, I mean, it would be cool to have a little bit of connective tissue in between those things, and it'd be really, really fun to see, like especially somebody watching reading all these comics, to see those little bitty things. And I don't really necessarily would look at them as Easter eggs. I would say it's just kind of connective tissue. I think it's an awesome idea to do something like that.
Yeah, thanks. And that was the initial premise, like that initial connectivity, tying all the threads together, making the threads in the first place. That was in the beginning. When I was asking for, I said, you don't have to participate in this portion, this tying and linking, but if for those that wish to, there's this extra added thing. If you want to try to one up each other and try to just have that much more fun, this is available for you, but it's not locked in, mandatory. The main thing is that you're a skilled storyteller, and that's gonna stick with the reader, a month or two down the line. There might be a couple links and stuff, like I said, visually or narratively, that might be like clever things that might be in the back of the reader's mind, but definitely a month or two down down the road, you're going to remember like, oh, that character was a straight up asshole, but I kind of liked him. But like that,
Right.
That's what draw me to it. There was a few that were few pitches, I will admit, that were like logical puzzles that were like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to cure this Purple Eyes thing. And those didn't get in the book because it was more about, people and like characters that had this occur to them. And what did they do? Did they do something extremely selfish? Did they do something that would, quote unquote, like leave a legacy? That's what I was more interested in, like the choices these characters would make. And like I said, it's interesting seeing all these different perspectives. And one of the ones that really pulled me in, and I thought was very original, was there's a few sport ones. So there's one of the sport ones is the tale of a boxer, and his opponent gets purple eyes. And there was a few pitches I got with the main character got purple eyes and was a boxer, but this one was one where the opponent got purple eyes, and he gets purple eyes before they get into the ring. So the opponent knows he's going to die within that 73-minute time, and the main character knows that there's a chance that he might kill this, his opponent in the ring because he has a short time, left to live. And you watch them fight, and then eventually the opponent does die, but then it keeps lingering, and the story continues, and it's the main character living with that decision. He's like, I willingly went into the ring and I killed this guy, but then he's like, well, my opponent also willingly went into the ring knowing he will most likely die during our fight or post our fight. But then also, like, the ref knew this, and every single person in the audience knew that this was a possibility. Like, thinking of the scope and just the mental gymnastics that one would have to endure. I thought that was brilliant, but also like the art. I cannot pronounce his last name. Nenan's from Serbia, so I cannot pronounce his last name because I'm dumb American that only knows English. His art's very kinetic and fast. So, but he's great with facial expression. So it's that good dichotomy of just a skilled art team, but also skilled just storytelling. And I do want to point out as a caveat, I know you're scrolling through them, Greg, but so these pages that the viewers are looking at right now, these are from the original Purple Eyes story. And these, like at the time, it was just a short story that Sean Dicker and Justin Birch and I created. So we decided for this individual story that the best visual representation and language to use was to have this Sin City-esque storytelling device with black and white, but with a limited color palette. In this case, with pure purple. But this book will be in full color. It's just the sample pages that we have available are just these limited color palettes. Yeah, the thing will be in full color.
Okay.
Because we have highly talented colorists on this thing. I'd be very, very angry actually if it was just if they just used purple. They just used 3 shades of purple.
And almost wasteful too, to waste the talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ross, Sarah, do y'all have any questions or comments you wanted to?
I have a couple questions right off the bat. Where'd you get 73 from?
That doesn't really have a sexy response. It's just kind of. It was me figuring out that there has to be a very short, brief amount of time that would not really mean anything. Like you can waste. I mean, in theory, you can waste 10, 15 minutes if your loved one lived across town, and you would waste that traveling, even if you knew exactly when your eyes turned purple. That's another key component. There's a 73-minute time limit, but like when do you as an individual recognize your eyes turn purple?
Right.
Like 10 minutes before you realize that. And other stories play with that because it's not a gotcha. It's like how these people would actually live in this world. But yeah, the 73 minute. I just was like, all right, it's gonna be 73 minutes. But then, with any idea, you keep looking at it, and you're like, well, the 7 and 3 make 10. That's kind of like a numerology thing. And I looked it up. Like 73 is a prime number. That's probably some type of numerology thing. But really, it was just this stark time limit where you're just can't really do anything. You think you can do something, but you really can't do anything.
Do you recognize that your own eyes turn purple, or is that something that you have to have someone else tell you?
Yeah, someone else has to tell you. It's not like you don't feel the change in your body. So that was
That
one of the key components of the story that Sean Dicker, Justin Birch, and I created was the young woman that you see on the left. She's like 10 years old, but she's already horribly obsessed with her appearance, and that was a comment on how young women have to constantly be knowing how they are presented in society. But she's constantly looking at her eyes because she's so fearful of her getting it that she's constantly, one of the sample pages is her just basically looking at like a pocket mirror, looking at her eyes, listening to kind of, I don't know, just lists, like kind of crap list, junk food YouTube videos, not like this, but like, like a Watch Mojo type of like junk food, top 10 list type of thing. But like she's just constantly checking her eyes all the time. And the part of that story is her character growth, is her realizing that life is short and stuff. You can't just try to predict, even if you know that the peak moment that your eyes turn, what happens next. Like you have to then do a decision of what you want to do with that. And like it's discussed in this, I can't remember if it's in the sample pages, but in this world they don't have bucket list, they have purple list.
Yeah.
And same thing with, I guess, like bucket list is, you think you can have this huge bucket list, but really how much time and energy do you actually have, and financially. So that's even just more compressed in that 73-minute time. But with anything, and like I feel like what bucket list is really supposed to represent, even in our lives, is like, what do you want for yourself? Like what would make you happy? What would happy in the short term? Well, now I'm thinking about it's like that, like the beginning of Office Space, when he's just like, what do you want to do? He's like, did you ever write that thing in high school where like you just write whatever you do with $1 million, and that's what you're supposed to be doing? Like that's kind of, I feel like, the same mentality of like, all right, if you only had this much time to live, what would you do? That's going to be your true north, you can say, of what you most likely are yearning to do in life or accomplish.
Yeah. Well, the 73-minute thing being so, it's a odd number to land on, but it does have a lot of like it's cool that it has the little bit of meaning like that behind it. But it makes you wonder when you get done reading this comic, like, what would you do with 73 minutes?
Exactly.
Because like I can understand 2 days, in 24 hours, but 73 minutes, and then you not even knowing if you have the full 73 minutes. Once you realize, it's like, wow, okay. You've got to really come to terms with things pretty quickly. So I would imagine in this universe or in this world, most everybody would have something in play for that situation. At least I would hope.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there are people, with anything like our life, with our like death. The one thing I wanted to play with was that, death is an inevitability. And all of us pretty much lie to each other. That's not going to happen. But I kind of wanted to play around with a more front-facing representation, like a reminder. So, I mean, that's where the eye portion is, the window, the eyes are the windows to the soul type of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's, people, like I said, like in our world, they know it's going to happen. They don't know when. Even if you're young, you don't think it's ever going to happen to you or anyone that's around your age range. But, it can occur. But then when it does happen, that's why I said, like, it's interesting watching some of these characters just make horribly selfish decisions. There's one pitch story where it's basically a Purple Eyes Love Club where you just go and you just do drugs and have sex for whatever amount of time you have left, which is a fun story. And there's another one that's not that, but the character just straight up does cocaine like right away. Or is doing cocaine and then just does more cocaine. They're just like, oh, fuck.
You barely have enough time to OD.
Yeah. So it's just like playing around with things like that, watching, like, because that is very human. Like, if you as great as you would hope someone just like gives all their money to charity during that time and like does this very kind, like I said, build a legacy type of thing in this minimal amount of time, it's not going to happen. We're all humans. We're all going to be in panic mode, even if we have the full minute. And so that's why I was really pulled to those pitches that embraced that and like actually thought of how people would live in this world. I'm not saying I don't mind morality tales, but I'm more interested in characters that act and think like me.
Okay.
I
Sarah,
do like.
Oh, go ahead, Ross.
I was gonna say I do like the fact that you turn this into like a real episode thing. It's almost like the outcome of what each thing is going to be, but you are literally just wearing the shoes to somebody for one little bit to figure out, like you said, the boxing part. What does someone do when you figure that out? Because reading this, just like Greg said, I don't know what I would do. Like 73 minutes doesn't seem like a whole lot of time, but at the same time, you're like, I mean, you got a few minutes to figure it out and to get the plan in motion, which having the purple list clearly helps. But I mean, what if you're an hour away from everything? You're gone.
Watch part 1 of Zack Snyder Justice League. There you go. 73 minutes well spent. Sarah, did you have anything?
Oh, well, I mean, it was a very interesting premise, especially because my question, first off, was like, where did this come from? How did this start? But then I understand where you're like, okay, this is just a given. This is something that just happens. Like I said, a lot of these premises for a lot of these stories, I think they're just absolutely, I love it, especially the revenge ones. I'm thinking, that sounds like something I would probably do. If you want to know the honest to God truth, like, oh, you gonna do that to me? Oh, I'm gonna get you before it's all over with. No, but it's an interesting premise. I mean, it's something I really haven't come across, and I like how everything kind of ties together. Like you do have that connectivity to show that it's not just like one-offs. It's like, okay, this is how this particular thing affects these people in however many different ways. So it's kudos, man. I'm like really digging the stories.
And I wanted to ask that too, kind of adding on to that. Do we ever find out anything about this issue, this Purple Eye issue? Is it being a mystery kind of what makes it,
It's a mystery, MacGuffin, story device, whatever you want to call it. One of my key influences was the Leftovers TV show. I never read the book. And that had a similar premise where there was an event that occurred where 2% of the population disappeared globally at the exact same time. And people all over the world were trying to find meaning in it and finding a cause for it. And throughout that pretty short series, I think it was only like 24 episodes total between 3 seasons. It was not like there was no strict answer. There was a lot of people lying to each other, and there was like there was people thought it was the Rapture because that just seemed like the most historically, or like the most issues that most people would know. But then what does that mean? That means everyone else was a bad person that was in the there was horrible people that there was horrible people that disappeared. Like in the TV show, I mean, this isn't spoiling much, but like in the TV show, there was a bunch of jerks that faked that they disappeared and they just like left their spouses and moved somewhere else. So that was my impetus, was thinking like, all right, so the Purple Eyes and these stories that we're all reading in this new volume, it's been about 5 to 10 years since the quote unquote first instance of Purple Eye. And at least, in this volume, because once this is funded and everyone gets their books at the end of the year, everything's scheduled. So ideally, the books will arrive in everyone's mailboxes by December. Early 2023, we're going to go into pre-production for Volume 2. So at this point, Volume 1 does not have at least the story of the person that first gets Purple Eyes. Because, I can tell the story about the first person that gets it. That might not have the answers you're looking for about what that caused it.
Right.
But yeah, I think I was chatting with a buddy about it, and I thought, one of the things that's missing from this one that I kind of would, I didn't get any. I don't think I got any. I didn't get any detective story. And detective stories kind of need, some room. You need more. It's hard to do a short story because you have to have them find clues. So one of the things I thought might be interesting is doing a detective trying to work backwards to figure out what almost like a cyber detective or like someone like trying to figure out, piece the puzzle together of trying to figure out when's the earliest instance, like going through news articles and going to physical locations, talking to people. I thought that would be an interesting, more, kind of logical, like what would actually happen in this world versus, regular. I mean, or a traditional detective story would be badass too.
Yeah, that is pretty.
So anyone listening here,
you could do
I was going to say,
scientific or like how do you figure it out? Someone spends their whole life trying to figure this out, and then like, boom, it happens to them. Like 10 years down the road, and here they are trying to figure it out. Like, I've spent my whole life trying to do this, and now I got it.
Yeah. So I was going to say, how do you submit? Because I got a couple ideas running around the old noggin up here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, for submissions, I've talked to other editors that do anthologies. I mean, that's a big thing, is how do you get the word out there? Because, you want as much people, you want the largest variety creators to pitch. So at least for me, my route was just posting on Twitter and Instagram and just having my friends spread the word. Because every once in a while, my friends would be like, oh, I heard it mentioned in this Discord, or I heard it mentioned on this Facebook group. So it's kind of organic. For me, I was lucky enough where it kind of organically spread the information. That's why I tried having it for that 6-week period of, just give them a little bit more time to get the information spread. Because, about the 1 week mark, then I started doing the heavy posts, like only 1 week left. And then, then it just did the rounds again throughout the year.
Well, you are lucky, my friend, because we have tens, and I mean tens of listeners on this show. I mean, we're going to call it the squirrel bump, whenever it goes up. So, but that is pretty awesome, man. I like your work. I'm excited to see more of it. Story it's very interesting. It's one of those things that when I first start reading it, I'm looking for a story with like a conclusion to this, with this Purple Eyes thing. But I like the idea of like it being kind of episodic and that being a kind of a mystery in the background. You're dealing with more real life situations with this and how people would. It's a very interesting take on this issue, and it's cool to see I guess you would call Purple Eyes the villain, a villain of a story, not being like a villain, like want to take over the world type villain, you know? Something that everybody's susceptible to. It's pretty cool.
You say
So,
everybody. Is it human only?
Yes, it is human only, and I put that in the pitch, or like put the pitch guidelines. It's like this is human only, so no whatever tangential genome, no chimpanzees. Is it chimpanzee? I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
only people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just humans.
Makes sense. Well, cool deal, man. Well, I told you before. Well, actually, you guys have any other questions you want to ask him?
I just don't know how you come up with an idea like that. I've been sitting here trying to spin it around in my head, like all these different things. I mean,
Well, like I said, it's like you have that main theme of it's you have the Purple Eyes. Is at some point in time, you'll be susceptible, like you said. But all these different little vignettes of how people handle it and deal with it.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about it, because I mean, a lot of times, you're just given a story and saying, okay, here it is. This is like, one or two people's point of views. But I mean, you're giving different point of views for different, like I said, different stories. Just looking over, these synopses, and it's just, it's kind of all over the place, and I love it. It's great.
Because it makes you think, like, would you leave a family member? Like, does the Purple Eyes thing make you more live in the moment, because you never know when it's going to come up. So like all that, like just, the mind's just spinning with the how would your life change if something like this truly existed?
Or I like the one of using it as kind of like a crutch. It's not really necessarily you have it, but it's like you're presenting that you do, and then you really see how shitty your family is. That's a really like,
there you go.
Oh, that's a real eye opener.
Are people buying purple contacts just to see what would happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Give me 73 minutes of what I want right now. Yeah. Just turn purple.
Or just really see true colors.
Well, and that actually brings up two questions that I thought up on the spot there is, one, can you go through life and not get it? Like, it's not that everybody's going to get this. It's just.
No, it is.
People. Oh, it is? Everybody's going to get it? Okay. So that actually kind of cancels out the other question is how rare is it? So I guess everybody at some point in time is going to get this.
Yeah. So that's why it's such a prominent part of all society. Like I said, it's a newer part of all societies. Like it's not like something that, nursery, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Like nursery rhymes and like, fairy tales. There's not that built into various societies. It's something that's within the last 5 to 10 years. But like one of the story prompts, because like I was sitting for this this premise for about 6 months before, between creating the initial story and deciding to expand upon it with this anthology. I had a couple various jumping off points, like not brain teasers, but like things to think about when I had the open submissions, and no one took me up on it yet again. But I thought like people that are like more like daredevil types that like go in helicopters and jump off snowboards onto mountains and do badass stuff. Those type of people would be like, all right, my eyes are fine, my eyes are clear, and so they jump off. They jump out of the helicopter onto the mountain, and as they're going down, they mess up and like they dislocate their arm and they maim themselves, so they get in a coma, and so they're not necessarily dead, but they're maimed for life, or they're just they're in a worser state. They just like, oh, okay, I'll be fine, and then they're obviously not fine.
Right.
What if you were like Bezos rich? Would you have like a spaceship on standby 24/7? I don't know. I mean, like I'm just doing circles here.
It would be really, really interesting. Like I couldn't even begin to tell you what to do with 73 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. Well, like I said, really enjoy the story. Artwork's awesome. You said you're gonna have the books out end of the year.
Yeah, well, end of the year for physical. Whenever I'm always really quick. So this is, for those that don't know, like I said, my 4th anthology. It's actually my 3rd Kickstarter. Crazy thing is the day this Kickstarter ends on Wednesday, June 15th. And that the same day last year was when I started my first Kickstarter. So I've already completed and fulfilled 2 Kickstarters, already. And so I'm really just, I'm really good at scheduling things and making sure things get done at high quality. Yeah, but so for me, whenever I get all the pages, that's when I send the digital copies to everyone, because that's the key thing that I always do. Like if you, at least for me, like if you get physical, if you get the physical book for any of my campaigns, I'm going to send you the digital copy. I know sometimes it's one or the other, but for me, it's like you've paid, you're supporting these books early. You should at least get that little bit of perk. But yeah, I mean, for those that are like listen to this and are curious and go to the campaign page, I will say up front that I'm asking for a lot of money. I'm asking for 18 grand, and that is a lot. But the key part is, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom and see the budget, about half the money is going to the creative team. One of the key parts that I have for all my anthologies is to pay all the creators a fair page rate. Because one of the key things that I was doing when I was coming up with the best verbiage for pitch submissions, and the amount of information I need to an organization I need to give out when I was having the pitch submissions, figure out how to do the pitch forms and all the other stuff. So I was looking at other editors that were doing open pitches in indie comics that were looking to get most of their funding through crowdfunding means. And I was looking at them, and they were like, $50 or less per page, and that's unhealthy. That's predatory, and that even if you yourself are the true cartoonists that are writing and doing every single part of the art, $50 for the maybe 8 hours minimum of time between all those steps, but most likely be like somewhere between 12 and 15.
Right.
That's for $50. That's horrendous. And then the fact that you at least for me, I told all the creators, like, I don't expect anyone to begin doing art or anything until we get the funding, because you should get, like I kept saying, like, you should get paid for the work you do. So any work, once I give you the money, then then you can begin. Versus, like I said, these other editors that I will not name names for projects, was almost like, you do the work and then we get the funding, and then I reimburse you or I pay you and stuff. And I was just like, that's unhealthy. That's not how you treat people, first of all, and let alone creators that need to pay bills.
Right.
So,
It's the world we live in, unfortunately, but I got respect definitely for doing that.
Oh yeah.
You gotta push back against the way things are sometimes in order to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100% agree. Well, Phillip, where can they find? Go ahead and just list out real quick where they can find your work at. Before they do that, give me a quick elevator pitch for anybody for this story.
Cool. So I did a pretty good one in the beginning, but 73 minutes before you die, your eyes turn a vibrant purple. There's absolutely nothing you can do to resolve it. It's 100% accurate. There's no medical alleviation. There's no choices you can make. It is guaranteed. And in this world where in this world that we're showing you, there's 18 stories from 33 creators, and all our stories are linking together. I was good in the beginning. I dropped the ball at the end.
No. It's actually my fault, because you did give that at the very beginning. I just didn't. I just didn't put the phrasing of it beforehand. But that's exactly what you did. So yeah, you're exactly right. But I guess it's just kind of a reminder for everybody coming in who wasn't here at the beginning. So it works out. But tell them where they can find your work at. I'll be sure to put all that in the links for the show. That way people can get to it. But just put it out there, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. So the campaign is like they're live until Wednesday, June 15th, the morning of Wednesday, June 15th. And, type in Purple Eyes in Kickstarter, or you're listening to this way into the future, type in purpleeyescomic.com. That currently is pointing to Kickstarter, but if you're in the future, it'll point to my web store so you can get the physical book and digital book. And yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter because it's easier to share images and links and retweet my friends' projects and hype up other creators. Yeah, most of my social media feed, all I do is I follow art. I follow artists and writers. I don't follow celebrities or bands or anything.
There you go.
So I just look at art all day and just like retweet art. So I'm on there with my name. So Phillip with 2 L's. So PHILLIPMAIRA. And that's the same thing on Instagram. And same thing with my website. My website's phillipmaira.com. If you go on there, there's I have all my short stories that are on the various crackles are there. You can check out the portfolio page. There's a lot of sample pages and yeah, the usual web store. That's pretty much. I'm not on Facebook or TikTok.
I hear you.
It's too much stuff for me.
Yeah, me too. There you go. Well, that's awesome, man. Like I said, I'll get a list of that. I'll put it all in the show notes. Y'all check it out. It's really, really fun stuff. And best of luck to you with this this upcoming Kickstarter, man. So
yeah,
good deal. Well, let's move on. Phillip, you're gonna stay with us for a little while to talk about The Boys, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, well, let's get started with that. So I watched all 3 episodes. Phillip, I know you watched all 3 episodes. Sarah hasn't seen it yet, so we're not going to go full out spoilers with it. We're just going to give kind of a brief. The boys are back. Ross, you saw an episode and a half, right? So, okay, cool. Well, Phillip, you're the guest, man. Just what do you think about The Boys going into season 3, and are you happy with what you got so far?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. Like I didn't realize it was coming back until you emailed me about it earlier in the week. So I woke up early this morning and just kept watching it. And I didn't realize there was 3 episodes. And then, I usually don't binge stuff, but I'm really happy with the direction that the season seems to be going, and just the storyline in general. Everything keeps, like most good TV shows, like things keep building. Like, and at least for me, I've read all the comics except for I think Derek, Robert, Garth and Derek came back and did like a small series like a year or 2 ago. But I've read pretty much all the tangential and the mainline stuff, and it's interesting watching them, watching the show, the writers pick different parts. From the comics and bring it to more modern day settings, because the thing was done 10 years ago. I started reading it when it first came out. But yeah, it's good seeing those drawing from the source material type of thing, but also just making it more modern.
Yeah. Ross, I know you love The Boys, man. What you've seen so far? You really enjoying?
I mean, how can you? I mean, the open, you open the show and you're just like you sent it in the group text, or like The Boys are back, and I mean that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. You pick up soon after
the end of season.
I mean directly soon after the end of season 2.
It's a year time jump, right?
Is that what it is?
I think so. I think that's what they said.
It's a year
time jump. Yeah.
But I mean, they have a plan. They are like, everyone is in action. You see the struggle. You start to see where everyone is now at this point in time, and how it's conflicting. I don't know. They just do such a good job. Like, the story is there, and not only is the story there, but you turn around and you add in all of the extra stuff, and it's just over the top in such a great way.
Dude, season 3 so far for me is totally delivering. This has the potential to be the best season. The story just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's one of these things that, like, they're tying into threads from season 1 back into season 3. Like, this feels like one just really long story, and it's great. I didn't think that The Boys could get any gorier or
great. That's
gross,
exactly what I want to hear.
Oh,
perfect.
Man, they topped it.
Oh, it is
They
there.
definitely topped it. But I'm really, really enjoying The Boys so far. I'm always afraid with these kind of shows that I like so much about them failing or them falling on their face, and because now I know what to expect. Like the first season was great because I didn't know what to expect with it. You know, the second season I kind of had an idea, but man, they're still going off the rails. I'm worried about like the Flash syndrome, CW Flash syndrome. Like, man, I'm loving this show, and then I'm not loving this show so much. But the
I've
direction
said
they're
the
going, the
same
story they're
thing
telling.
about Stranger Things. I mean, that's why I was trying to get you to watch it, because I mean, like,
I started. Sorry.
now that I caught up, and like now that I'm where I'm at, they do the same thing. They make all the proper tiebacks. Everything feels, I guess, believable is the word that you want to go with. You know, nothing feels pushed. You're not trying to overreach for a story, and it's just so good. The writing, the
Yeah.
directing, the character, all of the character delivery is so on point, and it doesn't get old. I mean,
Yeah.
the show itself transpires over so many years, but at the same time, just like The Boys, it, it does so fluidly that you're not left out. And not only you're not left out, but you pick right back up with no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then I haven't seen enough Stranger Things yet, but The Boys definitely delivers on that, like 100%. You know, return characters are great in this show, and the growth of these characters. Like going into this viewing of the season 3, I remembered season 2, and I remembered a lot of key points about season 2, but I was still rusty, or like didn't remember exactly where everything left off at. And I can say for the first 2 episodes of the 3, it's bringing all that back together. It's like it doesn't exactly go through exactly what happened at the end of season 2, but it's like it gives you kind of a reminder. This is why this person's in this, and it's bringing the boys back together a year later type deal. And I liked that. And then season 3, or episode 3, it kind of picks up with a story going forward, which is like an awesome story. I can't wait till y'all see this. It's gonna be fun. But I'm really enjoying The Boys. Like I said, I didn't think it could get gorier or weirder, I guess I would say, especially after that first episode. But it definitely does. It delivers. So, were there any thoughts or anything else you want to? I mean, I'm trying to say as non-spoiler as possible about it.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it did just come out this morning. So to be fair, it did just come out this morning.
Yes, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair. So, which, by the way, Shorzy, good stuff. Good stuff. That's a scroll right there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we won't dive too deep into The Boys then for right now. I'm sure that by next week we'll probably be tearing this thing apart. But I'm ready to. I'm probably going to rewatch the next three episodes again, which is not a problem because they were really good. So.
Yeah, I'll probably grab hold of them probably either tomorrow morning or Sunday morning, before the kids get up, because God Almighty, I do not need them looking at that. I kind of like hide on the couch from my phone. I'm just like, you can't look at this.
Definitely do not need your kids watching this first episode. Definitely no way.
I probably don't even need to be watching this first episode, but I'm gonna watch it.
I mean, it's creative.
I think all of us are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you know the exact moment. And it's funny too, because in all 3 of these episodes, there was only one moment where I kind of had to turn my head away. I was like, I can't watch him do this. I was like, I can't watch it happen. Like I know it's gonna happen, but I can't watch it happen. But yeah, it's pretty intense. But yeah, definitely don't let your kids watch.
Oh no.
I wouldn't say any of it, but the first episode.
No, that is absolutely. They don't.
You can't let them watch any of it, because the moment they start watching some of it, they want to watch it all, and then.
Oh yeah. And I say my daughter's 15 and a half, about to be 16, and I wouldn't let her watch that first episode.
I wait till like 21.
Yeah. She can watch that when she gets out of my house.
That's what I'm saying. That's the one thing about The Boys. It's like I love the story, I love that, but some of that stuff, I'm like, okay, it's a bit much. It is a bit much.
Hang on one second. Andrew Pickle says he has no sound. But...
We have all of us?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking him in the chat room. Well, anyway, we'll keep talking because I know we're recording at least. So, oops, I can put that up there. Okay, well, like I said, without going into any kind of spoilers about the boys, I guess we can move on. Philip, did you want to stick around for anything else? Because I know you hadn't seen the other shows that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I'll stick around. It's Friday night. I got nothing going on.
Hey, man, as long as you want to.
Yeah, sounds like adulting at its prime right there.
There you go.
What are you doing? Sitting around chasing squirrels.
Okay. Well, Sarah, let's talk about Top Gun then. Since it's just going to be the two of us talking about that, we'll knock that out. That way we can, I'll finish up with all the other stuff and just kind of get some thoughts out of the way about Top Gun, because I saw it with my wife on Monday evening.
Mhm.
It was a pretty good deal. It was Applebee's, had like, if you spent $25, you got a movie ticket, and they spent $50, you got 2 movie tickets. And I was like,
Oh,
hey.
nice.
And since I'm smart and I save my popcorn bags, listen, people, you buy a large popcorn, you pay like $18 for a large popcorn, and you don't get a refill, save the bag, because they have to honor that. And you can just walk up and get you a free refill as soon as you come back the next time. I'm telling you, save yourself money. So I mean, we basically went to the movies for free. So I was like, yeah, let's see Top Gun. And it was the movie that my wife has stayed awake in. I couldn't tell you the last time she stayed awake through a whole movie, to be truly honest with you. Yeah. Oh, there's those reclining seats that are comfy and everything. So
take her to see movie 40X. I promise you, she won't fall asleep for that one.
Do what she said.
Yeah, I guarantee that. But this was something, and I almost wish she was here to talk about it. Like, immediately, just like smile on her face. It was what I could imagine she saw me as in the first Avengers movie. Like, you remember the first Avengers movie, like the first time we got that real big group up, and they did such a great job of it. Like, I can only imagine that I was like the whole time, Sorry if you can't see this, you're just listening, but I look pretty dopey. And that's what my wife was, and she was like that the entire time. She absolutely loved it. Loved the opening of this movie. That's
the funny thing about it. So let me kind of like give a little premise on this one. The first Top Gun movie, when it came out, when it was released, I was my daughter's age. She's 9 right now. So it's like, because I wanted the kids to see the original before they saw this one. And, I'm like, yeah, I was like, Claire, I'm like, I was your age. She's like, oh my God, really? Because she's that age where it just, ew, you're so old. It was, Top Gun has always been that type of movie where it was the first movie that when my dad got a VCR player, it was like the first movie that was rented, so it has like a really, it's kind of like above like Dirty Dancing. It's like one of those movies, like if it's on, you're going to watch it. And these characters, they're just kind of like imprinted in your brain who they are. So when I found out about Mavrick, which it took for flipping ever for it to come out, I was just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Because it's been like, freaking 30 years. It's been like forever. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Tom Cruise is still, people can have whatever views they want on Tom Cruise and his normal life. But as an actor, this dude is, I can't say enough about him because I just love him, even though he is kind of an odd cat anyways. And
cat's nice. That's nice.
But, it's just, and I was so glad to see, especially, like some of the characters coming back, because I feel like there were certain characters that you had to have in there, especially for like a grand send-off or, that kind of thing. But as far as, and like I said, the opening scene is funny, because my husband Brian and I were talking, it's like, okay, you've got to have this, this, and this. We've got to have that in this movie. We have absolutely got to have it.
Yep.
And also because, Top Gun, the original, when it opened, it had like a full, like, opening scene, with like the credits before. A lot of times now with movies, it just, from the very first frame, it's just like it jumps right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we're gonna have everybody's name, and we're gonna go old school on this. And I thought that was fantastic, and especially the fact that it mirrored like the opening scene of the original, because that way it just sucked you back into it. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm there. I'm like on the deck of that carrier. You see the the planes. You just get that feeling. So you're just like, yeah, let's go. But oh my God, it was just so exciting. And another thing that I took away from this is because, like I said, you meet Pete Mitchell, and you meet him as Mavrick. Remember him from like the original. So now to see where he is, all this time later, it's kind of almost like Anakin Obi Wan type situation, because you have all this that's happened prior, and like where are you after the fact? You know what I mean? And it's just in the way that he dealt with, being older, where he is in life, where I'm like, dude, I felt that, especially that one scene where he was outside the bar, and, he saw, all this, had all these like flashbacks and everything, because you didn't get Meg Ryan back, but you saw her in a flashback, you have all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, dude, I couldn't even imagine like the feelings this guy had, especially being back after all the history and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just kind of like a kick to the nostalgia, and then also like just life itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of crazy.
I will say, when you saw it, did it have the Tom Cruise little
yes
beforehand talking to the audience and then go to the movie? Guess what, folks? He does age. That's what Tom Cruise really looks like whenever he's not dolled up for a movie.
That was no makeup.
I saw him and I was like, that's what the guy really looks like. He does age.
Well, he's like what, 56? I mean, he's like he's pushing.
He's not super old. Yeah, he's not like really old. He's just, but everybody's like, oh, he looks exactly the same. Well, he doesn't.
Well, it's kind of like Johnny Depp. I mean, if you think about all the movies Johnny Depp's been in, I mean, I can't remember a time when you really saw his age, and the only time you really saw it is after the circus. You're just like, that's what he looks like. That's what he really looks like, because you see everything else. It's like, what are you doing? What kind of witchcraft is this?
Well, listen, I was the same as you when I went in this movie. I said, this movie, I know I'm going to enjoy it, but for me to love it, it has to do this and this and this. And it did every single one of them. It did every single one of them perfectly.
All the boxes.
Like, remember I told you before that I had an issue with Brewster, who is Goose's son in this movie. Him like in the previews was like, my dad didn't trust you and I shouldn't either. And I was pissed off about that. And I was like, no, that's bullshit. He wouldn't react like that. They give you a reason in this one. You're like, okay,
yes,
cool. They fixed that problem. They thought about the guy like me that saw that and thought about it and was like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Well, the thing about it too,
think
about it. I mean, the time that's passed, because you saw the kid in the original and you're thinking, okay, how old is he? So you're trying to like do the math and you're like,
fix that too. Yep.
Exactly.
Fix that too. So I was like, okay, cool. There you go. Check. Like that was things I needed to fix. But this movie just did it for me. Like, there's not a lot of movies, especially nowadays with having a family, podcast, work, and how expensive it is, that I would go see twice. There are. When I was younger, I would go see a movie, I'd go see it, and then I would have nothing else to do, and I'd just go see it again, like back to back, I would pay to go see this movie again in theaters. In fact, I probably will pay to go see this movie again in theaters. It was a have fun the whole time. No real lulls. Didn't really... There was no time where I was like looking at my watch, like, I wonder how much time's left in the movie. It didn't feel long, and all of the story made sense. There were certain things that I was like, okay, I see them setting this up. Like, just for instance, the F-14s, them setting up the F-14s. I'm like, why would they mention this at all? I'm like, okay, it's going to.
But it's one of those things where you'd have been pissed off if they didn't have it in there.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was good writing. They did a good job with that
somehow.
Yeah, they thought about things like me. Let's see. Kevin says, the only thing I remember from the first Top Gun is Danger Zone. Well,
yes.
Yeah, I mean,
you had Danger Zone and the anthem. That Top Gun anthem is like absolutely ingrained, because I remember I actually found it to where I could like pick it out on the piano, and my son, he's playing the trumpet, and I'm like, I will get you some simple sheet music. You can learn how to play that. He's like, oh, really? Yes. I mean, it's just. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, it's, and I've seen discussions of where, which is better, the first or the second. Well, obviously, I mean, the first one's going to be the best, because that's what sets everything up.
Ooh.
But to even have the second one that's that close, I mean, there's still some stuff. I mean, you have to think about it. I mean, Top Gun was like just one of those movies where it was like high adrenaline, testosterone. You're like, just, you walk out, you're like, just, fuck yeah, that kind of stuff. And I mean, and you still feel the same way with the second one, but I just feel like there's a little bit of aging in it, if that makes any sense, because it's like you're well, I mean, you're dealing with, I don't know. It's like you're kind of just dealing with like the way how everything's kind of turned out. Just like I don't know.
If they
just
went and
work
told a
together.
whole
It's a
brand new
fantastic
story,
sequel. That's all I got to say. It just checks all the boxes. It's
yeah.
everything it's what I wanted, and it's what I needed.
Well, Ross, they do go tell a whole brand new story. That's the beauty of this. They tell a whole brand new story, and they wrap up every little thing you would want to think of about the last story just perfectly, all in a little box right here for you just to open it up and view. And oh my gosh, it's so great. Like Val Kilmer, the way they wrote Iceman into this, everything about him, the scene with him, it was perfect, absolutely perfect. That was all I needed to see of him. That was all I needed to see, and that was all I needed to know. And just he has a presence in the movie throughout the whole movie without being in the movie, which is great.
And saying that's one of the characters where I'm like, you have to have him. You have to have him in this sequel.
Yeah, I thought that the kid who played Goose's son, Rooster,
Miles Taylor,
fantastic job. I mean, he's already a great actor. He's a great job in Footloose. Great job in. I like the Fantastic Four movie that he's in.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mind it. I mean, it's not like the best movie ever, but I don't think it's a bad movie. But he's a great actor. Man, some of those scenes you can look at and you're like, damn.
He looks like
the perfect guy. Yeah. Yeah, it looks exactly like him. Like they picked the perfect guy to play this role. And once again, they fixed the problem that I had with his issue because I was also afraid they were going to drag that out throughout the whole movie and just beat you over the head with it, and they didn't do that. They didn't CW it, which was cool because I can't stand it when things get CW'd, and like they just beat you over the head. The same thing. It's like, okay, I get it. He's upset about something. Trying to think. My wife asked the same question, and I thought the same thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember the love interest name from the first movie, the character's name, not the actress.
That was Charlie. Yeah, that was Kelly McGillis.
Yeah, but that's not the same female in this movie, right?
No.
Okay, so
totally
they didn't just recast the character. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I told her. I'm pretty sure it's a totally different character, but I'm not positive.
Because that was one of the things too, because it kind of came out after the fact. Because even Kelly McGillis, she was like, I didn't even want to be in it. She's like, I've gotten older. I'm not, perfect anymore. Which I don't even think she acts anymore. Honestly,
she lives right around the corner here in North Carolina.
Yes, so I think she's just like, hey, I've done what I'm going to do. I'm just living my best life. Everything's great. Hey, just let it go. But I thought they did a really good job of, having a different love interest. And it's kind of implied. You don't really get the history, but you can kind of infer the history.
Right.
Because, it did say that, Mitchell had been back or he had taught at Top Gun, but it didn't last very long. So, I mean, it's not the fact he hadn't been back since, I guess he graduated or, whatever that was. So.
Well, and that's my thing is if that is the case, then that might be the only issue, which is not even a big deal that I might have with this movie then, is because they really, really lay it on thick with these two about their past and their history and everything else. And it's like, I've known their relationship for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like they're laid it on like it's been a trilogy or she was the one in the previous movie. I told my wife, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's a totally different character, but I couldn't remember the girl's name in the movie in the first one. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's not even a big deal. I get it. This is a 30-year span they're talking about here, 30-plus year span. So I'm not going to get all that story. And I hope they do not go back and try to milk this cash cow and tell a bunch of Top Gun between the 30 years stories, some not including Tom Cruise. Like, they'll do it. I mean, look how much money this thing's making, which, by the way, this thing is making all the damn monies.
But yeah, it appeals to everybody. I mean, and not only that, but I mean, like, it's a safe enough movie. My sister's work took him to go see it.
Really?
That's what I'm saying. My 12-year-old, I mean, he loves it. I mean, my 9-year-old.
I haven't seen anybody who doesn't want to see it. Yeah. Like everybody is down to see it, for at least that I've talked to about it. It's actually the #1 Memorial Day opening weekend movie of all time, and believe it or not, it's Tom Cruise's biggest opening weekend of all time.
Yep.
And then, of course, they had to show. Did you see the preview for what Mission Impossible? What number is it now?
19.
Yeah, that's a series I never really got down with him. Like nothing against it. It's just
Ethan Hunt's like a little old too, so
it'd be like starting the Fast and the Furious right now. Like you could do it, and you might have fun, but man, you're already so far behind.
Oh, it's not starting. That's the problem for them. It's finishing because no one likes what's his name.
Nah. True. But I'm trying to think.
But they had another thing that had to check off the box was a flyby.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
two of them.
Buzz in the tower.
Right. Yeah, two of this one. One at the beginning, one at the end. That was pretty cool. And the action scenes in this one, obviously, it's so much further later. They're actually, these actors are actually in the planes filming this, but man, it just looked so good. Looked so much better. I was like, man, that is really, really sweet. I like the action, the plan at the end. Like I said, Ross, this movie has a wrap up of kind of the old story and little tie-ins, but it tells a completely different story too that somewhat runs in line with the old story. Same type of deal.
It's like a mission, but it's a different mission.
Right. And this one they're planning on going into battle as opposed to, it's starting with training, just as training, and then they get something happens.
So this mission is possible.
Yes.
Actually, it was kind of impossible, right? Let's see. But yeah,
you don't go into no-win scenarios.
Man, this movie it just hit me in all its fingers.
It was almost Kobayashi Maru. It was almost.
That's a good way to put it. That's a real good way to put it. It was almost. And of course, it makes you wonder about how realistic. I mean, I know that the pilots actually did fly to film these scenes, but them doing all the stuff in the movie was not actually them doing that stuff. Am I correct to assume that? The maneuvers and everything else they're doing? I don't think that.
You mean like with just them actually flying and the camera shots? I mean, so
yeah, like there's scenes with them in the cockpits where you see it's like looking at
they're trainer jets.
Yeah, and they're actually flying those, but the actual scenes with them battling and flying is not the actors actually doing that.
Not the actors actually flying the planes. Well,
right,
flying the planes. Yeah. Yeah. So like normally, what you always do, even coming up when to be a pilot, is always put yourself in a two-seater, and the two-seater gives the opportunity for one to take over, and normally their pipeline gets you to a point to where you have to fly a percentage of the actual flight time to be proficient or whatever the deal is. And so in the movies, that's how they do it. Same kind of concept, except someone's always there to catch you if you fall, not literally, but to make it work for you.
One thing this movie had for me that I absolutely love, and I told my wife, is that P-51 Mustang. Oh, buddy, you want to talk about the Cadillac of planes, like the absolute best thing. If I could fly,
wasn't that Cruise's actual plane?
I don't know, but if it is,
I think so.
Man, hats
I think that's
off
his actual
to you,
plane.
good sir. That is the most gorgeous plane ever made. If I had my choice to fly anything in my life,
I don't know. See that little F-14 kind of spread out a little bit. That was
it was nice, yeah. But I'm telling you, man, this P-51 Mustang. Oh my goodness, that or an A-10 Warthog. Give me one of those two. Those two.
Calm down, Greg. Calm down.
I'm telling you. Oh goodness gracious.
Someone's getting liftoff.
But yeah, man. Trying to think what else in the movie. We didn't get a volleyball scene in this movie. We get a football scene in this movie.
I like that one even better.
Yeah. And that's why I told my wife on the way there, because I knew about it going in. I knew there wasn't a volleyball scene, but I knew there was a football scene. I told her, I was like, yeah, sorry, there's no volleyball scene in this one. And so like then when I know the football scene is gonna come up, because you can tell, I'm like, hey, check this out. Here comes the non-volleyball scene, and it's the football scene, of course.
Yeah, I don't think she was too upset, was she?
Gotcha, journalism.
You care about all these characters too, which is great.
But it's interesting how it's like you can kind of pick them out and see them and kind of compare them to like the originals. Because especially Hangman, he's obviously a little Iceman Club. Obviously.
Yes.
But the thing about it is you can depend on him.
To a certain extent, yeah.
He just seemed mouthy in the clip that I saw. I saw
he's an asshole. I mean,
the bet scene where they were betting and then they all ended up, pushing concrete.
Yeah.
And like it for just that little, I think it was like a 5-minute clip, and it was the one 440X, and just watching it the whole time, like you could tell that the movie was putting a little bit more emphasis on the pilots than the first one did, like the the background pilots. So I thought it was interesting that they were spending more time getting into it rather than just relying so much on a Maverick and what'd you say, Maverick and Rooster
Well,
story.
see, that's the thing about it, because you had that storyline, but then you also had the story of these pilots as well. I mean, they weren't kind of like front and center, but they still had their relationships, and what was going on, because I mean they were still going through the Top Gun school. They were still being prepped for this mission and this kind of thing. So it was almost like a flip, but I mean they were still integral parts.
Right.
So and that's one thing I did like, because I didn't want them to be as background, because really you didn't want to like stay too much in the past, but you want to stay in the right there in the present, but you can kind of see how it was moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the guy who played Hangman, the Val Kilmer type, I guess, in this movie, he does a great job of being that asshole that's really good at what he does. He's a guy you want on your team, and he's an asshole, but he's not wrong. I mean, he's like Val Kilmer in Top Gun. Like, Val Kilmer's kind of an asshole in a lot of things, but he's not wrong about what he's saying. He's just not being nice about it.
But it was interesting seeing the back and forth between Hangman and Rooster, because it's like Rooster, he wasn't like Maverick per se, but I mean it was almost like he was a cross between Maverick and Goose. If you think about his personality, because it was like, okay, he was like the pilot, and he was good at what he did, but he was still somewhat kind of reserved, like the way Goose was. Like he was not almost like second.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing about Iceman and Maverick, it was always like they were both number one, but it's like somebody had to come in second.
Mm-hmm.
And there was going to be certain things, because Maverick was always pushing the envelope, and Iceman was like, dude, you're reckless, you're whatever. So it was really interesting to see that dichotomy between those two, because I mean Rooster was Goose's son, and but he, and I never quite understood. I was like, was he a pilot, or is he just like kind of the bad guy? The guy that got like the backseat dude. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Bob.
I think they both have to be pilots, right? Or else it
was like one takes front and center versus the other.
Yeah, so but like one can shoot, but one's got to figure out all the other stuff. I mean, that's like nowadays you can fly a plane with. I mean, they only fly a plane with two pilots nowadays for human error. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why they do it. One person can take care of the whole job, and even then, one person can watch the computer do it. So. Yeah. Back in those days, the two-man operation was for like missile control, for navigation, and for. Mm-hmm. I mean, they could each be qualified, but there was one pilot.
Okay. Yeah. Look, if you haven't seen Top Gun yet, what have you been doing?
I highly recommend it. This is a movie. I feel like Ross, you need to go see it.
I'm going to.
You need to see it. You need to see it. It is a good theater film.
Yes, like I said, this is one that I would pay to go see it again in theaters. Like I would kind of. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about not seeing it in theaters. To be really honest with you, I never saw Top Gun in theaters, but I don't know how I would feel about not seeing this in theaters. Like it's that like cool. Like I want that sound and that big screen, and like I don't know. I'm sure I'll like it at home. I'm sure it's not gonna Batman me. Oh yeah, that's right. Low blow. Hey, I did not like the second viewing of Batman. I didn't like it as much as the first one. So yeah, that's right. That's why you have a second viewing. But yeah. All right, cool. Well, y'all want to talk about some TV shows then?
I will say, she's talking about second viewing. Apparently, I guess Multiverse of Madness comes out on the 22nd. So, when did that movie come out? Was that Mother's Day?
Not that long ago.
I'll say it doesn't seem like that long ago.
So
it comes out.
It was like a month ago.
Like 30 some odd days, or
yeah, so it's just under. Shoot, I don't know. Heck, that's like 50 days. That's probably less. That's like 40 something days. 45 days is probably
a lot.
We saw it on the 5th.
Yeah,
we saw it on the 5th. So I think it came out like the 4th, 5th, somewhere around that time.
I wonder why though. I wonder why they're not giving it as long of a run in theaters anymore.
Well, when you own the streaming network, you can do what you want to with it.
That's true.
They actually make the agreements to put movies in theaters for the least amount of time possible so that they can bring people to their streaming networks.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, it works because if it's coming out and streaming again in a few 3-4 weeks after I see it, I'm not going to go probably not going to go see it again in theaters. So it doesn't blew me away. But Top Gun, I might break that rule. Top Gun. I think the last movie I did that with was, Batman vs Superman was the last movie I saw multiple times in theaters. Yeah. And I think about it, that was the last one I went and saw multiple times in theaters. And before that, I think it was Revenge of the Sith. I think I saw that one a record time in theaters for me.
I'm not even going to tell you how many times I saw the first Twilight movie in theater.
No, please tell us. I'm interested.
It was probably at least 4.
Really? That's a good question. What's the movie you've seen the most time in theaters? What you feel? Can you think about it? The movie you've seen the most time in theaters?
It feels like we have like old school theaters here in Chicago, so it has to be like a classic. I don't know, like Rocky Horror or something.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
It's like we have
my mom's. Yeah.
We have a cool, like way traditional, what you would think of like a movie theater, like one of like restoration movie theaters. Like it's basically one theater, which is like this long bowling alley looking theater, with long red curtain, and they have an organ in it. They have like a very side tangential theater that plays basically just one theater. And it's called the Music Box Theater. And once a month, they have, between Friday and Saturday, they change it up, a midnight showing of Rocky Horror and a midnight showing of The Room. And it's always fun. And then I forgot I did that at the end of 2019. Every Halloween, they have an interactive midnight showing of Rocky Horror, where they have like a small cast on stage, and they just like reenact, and they have props of like what's happening behind them.
Do you get to do like the time warp in the aisle?
Oh, everyone's dancing. Yeah, that's fun.
Well, believe it or not, like one of the showings for Twilight, like the book I actually have a movie stub. Yes, the movie stub that I use, I still have in that book. I found it like the other day when I like wanted to reread it, and I'm like, damn, like to this date, I'm like, oh my god, this is insane.
There's another good question. When was the last time you had a movie ticket stub? I was just talking to my wife the other day. I couldn't tell you the last time I stood in line for a movie, or I didn't buy a movie ticket on an app, either Movie Phone or Fandango or Atom.
Force Awakens. I had a movie stub.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of depends on the theater too. So I mean, sometimes you still, because I can't remember the last time I actually went to like a box office, because now, because of the apps and everything, and especially I'm usually getting anywhere from 2 to 4 tickets at a time.
Yep.
So
I'm not driving to the movie theater unless I know I got a ticket and a good seat.
Absolutely. I'm like, I want to know what time, I now it's like I want to know where I'm sitting. I'm super spoiled. I'm not gonna lie.
Actually, I did pay $10 for this badass movie ticket stub, limited edition movie ticket stub for Rise of Skywalker, because I thought that it was going to be just this amazing fucking movie. So I was like, I want this ticket stub, and I have the ticket stub.
If the prequels have taught me anything, hang on to it for another 10, 15 years and you'll be golden.
Yeah, true. I didn't hate that movie, but it was not what I was wanting to get out of it. But they don't have to write the movies for me. They should, but they don't have to write the movies for me.
I think a lot of the MCU movies or like Star Wars movies that have come out, I think it's been at least like maybe twice. I can't really think of one that's been like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Because normally what we would do is, since my kids were young, it's like Brian would go see it one night or one day, I would go see it, and then depending on how everything turned out, we might take the kids to see it. But this was before Claire got old enough to where she would actually pay attention to what was going on. Now the boy, he was always watching stuff. I mean, I still remember him watching, discovering or finding out that Vader was Luke's father. I mean, I still kind of pick on him with that, but it's usually the girl that's kind of like, I don't know if I want to go see this or not, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. You do, trust me.
I live with 3 women. Nobody ever wants to see the movie I want to go see, so I'm usually going to see movies alone. But that's cool because I don't need to talk to people during movies, so I'm cool with that.
That's probably one of the reasons why we've seen so many 40X movies. Because it's clearly like, are we
If it
going
was
40X?
40X,
Yes.
Are you enjoying the movie?
But she has not been thrown from her seat yet, so this is good.
Hey, with 40X, how does popcorn and drinks work?
They don't.
You
Or is
better
it
hold
like
on
is it like
tight.
a rack up here? Like you can like reach
No,
up
you
here
just
and
have like the
reach it?
seat. And what we try to do, because the
No.
way the seats are, they're like in increments of 4.
Mhm.
So you try to sit like 2 here, 2 here, so you have a space. So that way you can kind of put your stuff like right here, put the popcorn down so it doesn't fly
Nice.
everywhere.
Nice.
You got to be strategic.
Kevin says Rise of Skywalker was the worst Star Wars movie, but that's just me. I don't think it was the worst, but it's definitely toying with that notion. So
Talk about one of the things that's the best about Star Wars right now. Because Obi Wan is still kicking ass.
Oh, dude.
Obi Wan is still good. Y'all want to do that? That's a good
Yes, let's
segue
go ahead
into
and see
Obi Wan.
it.
Let's walk right into Obi Wan.
I will leave this about the Top Gun Maverick. Go see it.
Yes,
Go see it.
I recommend
see
it.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
If you don't like it, Ross will give you your money back. So
Double your money back.
that's right.
Come find me.
If you don't like it, I can't talk to you.
All right, let's talk Obi Wan because yes, this show is blowing me away. And it's funny because I was talking to Nathan about it day before yesterday, I think, and he was telling me that he's seen a lot of things online about people not liking it. And then I showed y'all that Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's got a 58% on the audience score for the Rotten Tomatoes, which is weird because I am yet to meet a person who's seen it that doesn't love it.
I told you my take. I mean, it's getting the same treatment that a lot of other movies and television shows have gotten, and it's
everybody's harping on the retcon.
Well, and they say multiple retcons, but I mean, like it has also turned into. I mean, you can't not say it because it's been news forever. But I mean, when you have Ewan McGregor and actual Star Wars also stand up against the whole like race thing against the Reva character. I mean, it is what it is, but like we live in a day and age to where people can get their thoughts out, whether they be positive or negative, and they always choose to affect it on fan score sites if they really want to go against something.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't really put a whole lot into it because I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff that I super enjoy that everybody's like they can criticize it and pick it apart, but I'm like it's the same thing I've told you guys about Star Trek. There's different fandoms or there's different views within the fandom. Not everybody's going to agree, but it's like, okay. And it really sucks that because, you have something great, you have something good, you really enjoy it. And then you have people that just want to piss on it come hell high water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, opinions like assholes, everybody's got one, but unfortunately some people just show their assholes more so than others.
Yeah. And the thing is, he has every right to say what he said, and he's not wrong by any means about what he's saying. But that shouldn't affect your viewing of the show because him making a comment on what he has a right to make a comment about something that is a bad issue doesn't affect how the show is written or how he acts or anything. So, like, if it's affecting your score of the show, then you're just being biased on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really
totally
taking
separate.
it. You're not looking at the art of the actual, what you're watching. You're taking a lot of like real world kind of stuff that should have no bearing on it at all.
Right.
And the fans that have issues with like the retcon stuff, that really look. Everyone is always questioning like, how is a show like this going to work? Because you literally do have to walk on eggshells to get to your storyline without damaging what everyone else currently knows. I mean, when they alleviated all of Legends, when the EU was still a thing, it caused an enormous rift. But then they started to trickle it back in. And rightfully so. I mean, they did it their own way because it's their own property now. You still have to be able to cater to the fans enough so that they get the same kind of feeling with a new story. And I think Obi Wan really rode the line of not just like, because there wasn't like a whole crazy amount of like EU stuff dealing with Obi Wan. The story was he showed up
Right.
Luke met him. That's the story.
Mhm.
And then we found out more through 1, 2, and 3. And we still didn't know anything that really happened between 3 and 4 to get to that point. Now we have it. I can't say that. I mean, when they brought Leia back, I figured that would be how it would work. Like, that makes sense. Why? Because you don't want to make Luke the main character. You can't make it about Luke. And who else can they do it with? So people are now discussing, you know, like, well, how are Leia and Ben able to do these things without damaging what happens at the beginning of episode 4 and the words, the phrases they get said.
Mhm.
But I'm like, they haven't done anything for me that has just made me scoff and be like, that's not my Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
So
There's only two things for me that I can think of that it can even be thought of as a retcon. One is and we asked that last week, is how does she not know Ben when she sends? And the thing is, we don't know if she did know Ben at that point, right? Did she meet him for the first time when she when they rescued her?
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I guess it was. So that may be a retcon. And then 2, I guess, would be the Ross, you mentioned this whenever it first came out, was the question they had about the you know, I haven't had that feeling since. And the last time we met, you were the master and I was the apprentice. They still can. That one's still up in the air because there's still 3 episodes left. They can still work that in somehow. But as it looks right now, that's kind of a like, well, that line doesn't
I'm just
really
gonna throw
fit.
this out here because, you know, like, there's like a lot of theories and whatnot floating around, and my other half, he's always good for like finding stuff. Like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? He found a TikTok where a guy kind of like explained it a little bit,
Mhm.
and it was, I'll have to send it to you guys because it took a really interesting thought process to where, you know, it's, I don't know, I'll just have to let you guys kind of look at that and kind of like just maybe marinate on that theory.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it kind of makes it make a little bit more sense to where, you know, maybe he, you know, Anakin was still in there. He wasn't like 100% Vader yet, you know, that kind of thing. Because, you know, what's been like 10 years have passed. So it's kind of like, you know, maybe he doesn't really consider himself yet a master, or kind of along the same lines of, you know, Kylo Ren, what he felt like he had to do in order to like fully, but, you know, embrace the dark side.
Maybe, but he's going by Sith Lord.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, but like I said, it's just kind of like a theory, and like, you know, I don't think it's going to be clear cut. I mean, it's going to, and maybe that's the whole point. Maybe they just want us to sit here and think like, oh well, is it this? Is it that? Or, you know, hell, it could be just catering just new freaking fans. I don't know.
I think what they're doing, I mean, we're now halfway through this show, and they have taken the opportunity to lay it on thick that the past 10 years have, and the death of Anakin had affected Obi Wan in such a way that, I mean, he is rock bottom. He's not saying that he's rock bottom because he is
like disconnected,
staying the course, but yeah, like he's like rock bottom, and so
he's getting that sushi grade tuna every night. I'll tell you that.
Hey, too much mercury in your blood. What's going to happen is that you're going to get the rebuilding story, right? So they're going to have to rebuild him, and I think that the whole master and apprentice comment is going to be him still showing Anakin that he can whoop ass, and then Anakin's going to have to go and spend that time from that last fight to episode 4 to find a way to become better and best Obi-Wan eventually in episode 4.
I agree. I think that's going to happen now, especially we'll get into this episode. Especially, you know, we got to see some Vader and everything, which is cool. I wanted to see a better fight, but I was a little upset we didn't get to see a better fight with Obi-Wan and Vader. But I get where they're going with this story, and I get why you didn't get that better fight. But I've always said that at the end of this series, there's like, I don't know what they're going to do, but Vader has to think that Obi-Wan is dead, or there has to be a really good reason why he stops looking for him. And maybe it's because he gets his ass whooped, and that's why he stops looking for him. So that could be a plausible thing, you know, and that would be the master and apprentice type line. So very possibly, yeah. But I think that they gave you that little bit of Vader in this one to give you a tease. He actually got a lot of screen time, but the fighting, I think that we're going to get a really badass Vader and an Obi-Wan fight, like the one we were hoping for in New Hope.
I remember Vader was showing why he was such a badass. I'm like, you just walk down the damn street and you're just.
Dude.
Well, did you see he was trying to bait Obi-Wan out, right?
And
what he was
and shit. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. And you know, hey, we'll jump all around the episode. I don't even care because the Obi-Wan Vader part was the best part of it. How about him dragging Obi-Wan through the damn fire?
Yeah.
That was payback from Mustafar. That was such a reversal. It was crazy.
But man, it seemed like he was in there for a while. Do it now.
So he's been sitting on that throne of Mustafar waiting for that moment.
Oh, he had that planned out. There was one problem I had with that scene, though. First of all, like, he lights the fire, and then he grabs Obi-Wan with the Force, and he drags him into the fire, right? Then somehow the fire goes out. Just like that, the fire goes out. Don't know how. Then his friend from the up above shoots the thing, and the fire comes back on, right? And then Vader can't get to Obi-Wan. And it's like, dude, you just grabbed him with the Force and drug him through the fire. Why can't you do that now? Like, that was the only thing, and I was like, that's not... Yeah. It was a bad getaway. It really was. It was a really cool idea, and I like this, but if you're going to leave him helpless like that, give a better way for him to get away, because it seemed
like a cat and mouse game.
And maybe that's what it is. Maybe Vader just let him go like, okay, you felt that now, because he did say right before he did that, you've only begun to feel the pain. So maybe he has big plans for him. I'm not sure.
Because it's like, I found you it's like, I found you this time, I can find you again.
Go to my Obi-Wan notes here. That'd probably be the best thing to look at. Oh, Obi-Wan sees this figure in the distance. And he tells Leia, and it kind of disappears, and he tells Leia to, but whenever they're walking through the desert before they meet, what's the guy's name? Flick? Yeah. Frack, yeah, that's what his name is. Yeah. Freck, yeah. Did we ever see or hear anything else about that? Or was that just kind of Easter egg they were laying out there?
No, I think you're getting him trying to come back into touch with the Force. Like he's been trying to talk to Qui-Gon. He's been trying to get his, we saw how much of a strain it was for him to hold Leia in the last episode when she was falling. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting that now these other things are coming up that he doesn't understand, because like his, for 10 years, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So he's been trying to really get back to it. I think it's just a part of him manifesting adjusting to using the Force. Yeah.
It's like a reboot.
Let's talk about that scene with Freck. So I guess he's just a transporter, works for the Empire. He's transported back and forth. They get in the back of this, and that scene was really cool, where they're actually in the back seat with 3 stormtroopers, and they're giving that story. And of course, Obi-Wan's the one who fucks it up. Leia's pretty good at this stuff, but Obi-Wan fucks it up.
They do a great job showing how little Leia turns into old Leia.
Yeah.
Or older Leia.
Yeah, because they really sell it to where, this is young Leia. Absolutely. 100%.
And they do a good job with Padme too. Like, you can see it as like, okay, cool. I can see a little Padme in here. So did you notice, and I'm sure they'll probably never run with this, but they definitely laid the seed, and they laid a seed for an Obi-Wan brother. For his brother. You could do all kinds of stuff with that. I'm saying, give me a, what's his name? Doobie-Wan? Kenobi? Like, I don't know, man. Whatever you want to make
Obi-2, bro.
Yeah, give me a Obi-Wan's brother story. That'd be pretty cool. But it does give that interesting perspective of not remembering your parents or any of your life, like just little flashes of it.
And see, that's the thing about it too. That's one thing my son has asked. He's like, well, how did they come to the temple? How did they get, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just trying to answer his questions. I'm thinking, because, everyone's like, well, they just basically, come in, they, took you, or, if they recognize, you had, Force sensitive, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's really fun trying to explain that to a 12-year-old.
Yeah. So they get caught at the gate, and they're saved by Tala, which is the person they were supposed to go meet originally. she's telling her about all these outposts that are set up and this and that. Is this like the bones of the resistance of the rebellion? I mean, like
Yeah,
the rebel,
definitely.
like this is them setting it up. This is the start of it.
Mhm.
It feels like it's to a point that they have that general direction going. And if this is 10 years after, then there's still another 8 to 10 before A New Hope happens. And so really in Rogue One is where you get that, that the real rebellion story. So
What about that trooper fell on the fence?
that was good.
Damn.
I like that.
It fell on that laser fence and cut him in half.
Yeah,
You always wonder.
because you never see anything like that in Star Wars. I mean, it's not as graphic. I mean,
And Star Wars actually is perfect for Disney because you can do stuff with blasters and lightsabers and have no blood.
No blood.
yeah, exactly.
Because when you don't have any blood, it makes the death better. You know, like
Cauterizes the wounds.
That's right. Let's think. Go through my notes here. I like Leia's asking him if he's her real father. You know, and in moments like that, it's funny because like when she mentions her mother or her father, and then I think about Obi Wan, I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, that's crazy because like 10 years ago, they were literally like best friends, the three of them. Like,
I mean, they were like a family.
Anybody, yeah, it was
It's like
absolutely.
Obi Wan was
insane.
kind of like the uncle because I mean, he and Anakin were like, in essence, like brothers.
Yep. Vader landing on planet. Write that down. I love Vader in this. Like the fact that they brought back James Earl Jones to do the voice, just the look of Vader, it looks awesome. I'm still wondering about time with Vader in this 10-year period. One, because Obi-Wan didn't know, but I guess he was separated from it. Didn't like even know anything about Vader, which kind of blows my mind. I know he was separated from everything, but I feel like he would know. And two, like, how long does Vader stay in his little bacta tank? Is he always in there? Is he in there most of the time? Does he rarely come out? Like, I don't know. Interesting thing to find out.
But it's really cool that you got to see that aspect of it because, honestly, you don't really see much of Vader, in the original trilogies other than, you have the one scene, where he's got the helmet coming down. But this is like you're actually seeing, in essence, the hell that Anakin / Vader or whatever. Because when he has the helmet off to me, I feel like he's still Anakin. I mean, I know it's Vader, but you know what I'm saying? It's like you don't really feel Vader until you like see the whole entrapment. So it's almost like you get to see it's almost like his prison, because here he is, because he's in the tank and then finally they take him out, like putting, arms and legs and all that shit back on him and basically putting his parts and pieces back together. And then, when he finally has the helmet, then it's like, okay, yeah, I see Vader. But that was the thing I always kind of came to grips with too, because, when you first meet Vader, you don't really know that much about Anakin.
Right.
And then here you go through the original trilogy, you meet him, you go through the Clone Wars, you go through all that kind of stuff. And now you're back to that point of where this is where I met the Vader that I knew, but now I know what's under everything.
Right. The only thing they messed up on with that Vader reveal scene like that, where you see him put the suit on, is they changed the way the helmet is put on from the original movie. And I was like, oh, that's a easy thing to make it right. And I mean, I guess you could be in different machines. They could put them together differently, but I don't know.
I thought that was a little bit different.
It was just one thing I noticed immediately. I was like, the helmet goes on differently.
Next model, man.
No, wouldn't it be the? Okay, yeah, I guess the one I saw.
This time the doors open this way.
Easy to fix.
But
I get it.
You were asking the Bacta question. Once again, even in Rogue One, I mean, like he was still in the Bacta tank, and that was years later.
So I wonder if he spends just like most of his time in there, just chilling in there.
I mean, you see the dude's skin. His treatment is not working out for him.
Well, I mean, hey, Boba, he spends plenty of time in his, so I mean, why not?
Yeah, but I don't think Boba got as jacked up as Anakin did.
Well, that's why he has a smaller tank.
Ooh.
That's why he could afford to lay down.
Climb down for that. She says he has a smaller tank. All right.
Well, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Not wrong.
One's poison.
Vader's got a big tank. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm loving Obi-Wan. I kind of hate that I'm halfway through already, to be truly honest with you.
Well,
like, I don't want filler. I don't want filler because, the next show we got to talk about, that's going to be, we're going to have some issues with this. So I don't
Touch
want
your mouth,
filler,
Greg. Touch
but at
your
the same
mouth.
time,
Touch your mouth.
it just sucks to be halfway over. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and now, I mean, with the popularity, I mean, there are, rumors that they're looking at a second season.
It's possible, but if you go for too long, then you definitely.
I mean, well, I guess it kind of depends how this wraps up.
Exactly.
Because another six episodes, I wouldn't be upset about. Now, I'm not looking like 10 or 12, but I'm like another 6. But then again, it just kind of depends how it wraps up.
Right. I could take another 6, but if they wrap this up really well at the end of this, I'm like, okay, I don't need any more. Don't mess it up. Leave it alone. Like, don't touch it.
But to know that there's only 3 more episodes, I'm like, there's a lot. I just feel like there's a lot they got to cram in.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also wondering too.
So many good things, though. I mean, like you got the Quinlan Voss call out, in the cave thing. How they described the Force was fantastic. And Leia asked like, "What's the Force?" And he's like, "Are you afraid of the dark?" And then imagine what it's like when the light turns on. Like that's what the Force is like when you feel it. Like you feel like which is odd because it seems that he's in a state of depression and anxiety, and he needs that light to turn back on. He seems to be struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kevin says Fallen Order takes place 5 years after Episode 3, and then the next game takes place 5 years after that, which is where Obi Wan is taking place right now. So I actually almost started playing that game the other day. Almost did. I was like, I had the controller in my hand, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna play right now. Put it down when I watch television. But I almost started playing the other day. I'm eventually gonna play that game. So
I think Brian picked it back up.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's a good game, man.
I'm sure it's a good game. Like I said, when I get into games like that, I really have a good time with it. It's just the starting of doing it. Like I've got to get into it. It's like Horizon Zero Dawn. I love that game. Loved it so much that like I bought it, and then like after I bought it, I don't think I played it again since I bought it because it's just getting started back up. But I'm sure that if I put it in there and started playing it again, I'd be like, oh, this is a great game. It's just a matter of timing.
Yeah, you just got to find the time.
Yeah.
Like after you finish Rebels, you can find the time.
And Stranger
because you're gonna have to do that before we get the next show.
The Ahsoka show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have
next show, but yeah,
it'll probably help.
It will make a lot more sense.
You have to.
I mean, I read the Thrawn books, so I know a little bit about it. That time period, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, we got one. Is there anything else you want to say about Obi-Wan?
Can I wait till when's it coming on Wednesdays? Can't wait till Wednesday.
We didn't even mention the ending of it. Third sister takes Leia.
Oh yeah.
Sets us up for the next episode. So now Leia's kidnapped.
Again.
Be interesting to see how they handle it. Again, yeah. Kidnapped from being kidnapped. All right.
It's really interesting to see like the interaction of the Inquisitors because you've got Fifth Brother, with whatever happened with the Grand Inquisitor, and Fifth Brother stepping up saying, "Oh, I'm going to be," and then you've got Reva, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to handle this," but and then she was talking to Vader, and then all this other stuff happened, and she's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to tell," and then Fifth Brother's like, "Oh, I've already told him." She's like, you see that look on her face, like the hell you have. Oh, I'm like, oh, this is.
I bet Vader kills them all by the end of this. Vader will be the one that kills them all.
Another retcon though with the Grand Inquisitor. I mean, like is Homeboy going to show back up in like Reva or? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not counting him out just yet. I mean, I know what we saw.
Yeah.
But that's another one that you have issues with too, because you already have another idea of what happens to him, and It ain't that.
They've brought characters back before. Darth Maul got cut in half. He somehow still hanging around.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
it happens. But
just patch him up, he'll be fine.
Yeah. It's all make believe.
You should watch Rebels, so you know more about him.
I did. I watched the first season. I'm getting into it. I'm working on it. Rebels or Stranger Things?
Both simultaneously.
Watch one episode of one episode of the
Two
other.
Screens side by side.
Ross, that that can't happen.
I want to hear that though.
Then the review will be crazy.
What you learned from them.
Yeah.
So when Ezra went into the Upside Down, things got real crazy.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be nuts. All right, cool. Well, 3 more episodes. so we got at least 3 more weeks talking about Obi Wan and Star Wars, and then how long do we got between that and the next Star Wars adventure coming out? Ross, do you know? Should be. Is it Mandalorian or Ahsoka?
Mandalorian's towards the end of the year. Ahsoka is still currently filming, so
Yeah, that's not until probably next
That's
next year, I think.
long way away.
I don't think that they gave a date for. Oh, we have Andor. My bad.
Yeah, Andor
comes out
and
August.
what about Bad Batch? Too?
Bad Batch is next spring, I think.
Okay, because it's supposed to be coming out with something too, isn't it? Isn't it coming out simultaneous with something? Didn't I see that somewhere?
I'm not sure.
You mean with something else?
Well, it's kind of like, congruent with another.
Timeline, you mean, wise?
Oh,
Well, just another show. Because it's almost like you're getting like 2. I'll have to go back and look.
we know Mandalorian is coming out, I believe, in February of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Andor's August, end of August this year, and then Ahsoka, I don't think has a date yet.
No, I think Bad
Because
Batch
they're
and
filming?
Andor will be streaming together.
Will they?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I believe so.
End of the year Star Wars. I'm down. Cool. Well, all right. Well, we all got Star Wars stuff to cover. Oh yeah, Panther Pickle does say Miss Marvel comes out in a few days. I guess that is Disney.
Yes, it does. Comes out on the 8th.
Yeah.
I will give Miss Marvel a viewing. It's MCU has not let me down. There's I'm not as excited with the future, but I can't judge it until I see it, and I want to go into it with an open mind. I've actually only seen one preview for Miss Marvel. Nothing about it bothered me or looked like I was going to dislike it. So I'm going to go into it and hopefully enjoy this show. We'll see.
Because the hardcore Miss Marvel fans don't like how her powers are shown. I'm like,
Right, 'cause
where
there's
are these
so many-
hardcore
so many
Miss
of them.
Marvel Marvel fans coming from?
Like I said, comics that sell and comics that don't. So, but yeah, I mean, I am. Let's see. After Miss Marvel, what do we got cinematic wise with MCU?
Oh God.
Oh, you got Thor in July. It comes out
That's
a month
right.
after
Mhm.
Miss Marvel.
Thor in July.
And then I don't think you have another one until Black Panther on 11/11.
Okay, we got 2 more this year. That'll be fun. Marvel's always putting something out.
Oh, you got. No, well, you got the Guardians holiday special too. I believe that's supposed to be come out in December.
The Guardians. How did y'all see Bradley Cooper is leaving as?
No, not
Rocket.
Rockets.
I don't. Well, he's not making, or James Gunn isn't making one past 3
Okay, so maybe the character in itself is not going to be
because
involved in
Drax is
anything
leaving too. Batista, like he's done after 3.
else. Okay, that makes sense then.
He needs to go ahead and they just need to get that Gears of War. He just needs to be Marcus Phoenix because for it all ends.
He would be good in that role.
Absolutely, dude. Every
he
time
would be good
I
in
see
that
that, that's all
Take
I
that
can see.
timestamp.
Hey, you know
Greg
what?
saying that Batista's going to be good in the role.
You know what? I did say I liked Batista in what was the zombie movie, the Zack Snyder zombie movie, the Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job in that movie for his role. You know, it wasn't bad. So he's growing on me a little bit. He's not growing quite as fast as most wrestlers who could become great actors do for me, but I could
not
see
Rock.
him.
We get it. He's not Dwayne
Not
Johnson.
The Rock,
we
yeah.
get it.
The new Blade Runner. He was in that intro scene.
I
He was
actually
like-
haven't seen the newer Blade Runner. So,
Really?
but yeah, he was in that one. Was it brief?
Very brief, but
Very
he
brief.
played like a farmer, like a
Well,
very.
he was in the Dune.
It was in Dune.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he was like, Oscar performance right there, but I mean, still.
Well, video game movie. You know how that is. Hard to make a good video game movie.
It's hard for him to get a whole bunch of roles when he's so busy in Greg's streams at night.
Oh yeah. Every night just working out. So,
Yep.
let's see. Kevin says I heard they will focus on the Sylvester Stallone.
One of the next
Yes.
character for the Guardians.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Because he
Why not?
was, damn, I can't remember his name. What was his character's name? Because you saw him like in the end.
Oh yeah.
Kind of.
Well, not just the
Yeah.
end. He was the one that
Well, that's the thing. He was like the head of the
He
writers.
let what's his name
Yeah.
back in to the
Mhm.
thing. That's right. Well, that'd be cool. I'm down for that. All right. Well, let's see. We got one more show. Strange New Worlds.
I will actually have to depart because I have not eaten dinner yet.
I hear you, man.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah.
But Greg, Sarah, Ross, this has been wonderful. Thanks for having me on, and just this was fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I'll be in
Yeah, man.
touch, and I'll get your information into the description of the show, so everybody check stuff out.
Yeah, you're
Well-
absolutely welcome anytime, my friend.
Sure.
Thanks. Let me know if you want me to pop in for the boys' chats. Like I said, because I've read all the material. Whenever I got
Oh, that would
boned
be
up
cool.
on all the stuff.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
sure.
Night,
All right,
night.
All right,
Later, man.
bye, guys.
Let's see the Ravenders. He said Sylvester Stallone portrayed Stakar Ogard. Okay, I didn't know the name. I remember the character, but I didn't remember the name. But yeah, that focus on him, cool. All right, so Strange New Worlds. Check it out. I haven't been really disappointed with a Star Trek thing yet, and I wasn't really disappointed with this one. But man, this one just screamed filler episode, didn't it? Like kind of
Screamed Freaky Friday is what it screamed.
Yeah, I mean, kind of
not really. If you're used to like the episodic type Star Trek stuff, this
Yeah,
no, it's not.
it's very
because
much
you got
Star
to
Trek.
kind of take yourself away from the fact this is not like a linear story.
Yeah. Well, for me, I more mean it's like I was kind of watching it and I was like, man, if I would have wanted to watch a drama, I would have put a soap opera on. Like no real action, just kind of. Like I said, I didn't hate the episode, but it was just I don't know. I've been so excited with everything that's happening, I'm learning new stuff and everything else, and this one was just kind of like, oh well, this seemed a little CW-ish.
It's
for me.
obviously Ross. Obviously, he has not seen the Next Generation.
Yes, clearly.
and must be me then, because Panther Pickle, who I know is a big Star Trek fan.
well,
even said
well,
it's
because
normal
Greg,
crap.
I mean,
Okay.
honestly, if you're looking at like Discovery and Picard, those, like I said, I would call those more of like a linear type show. Every episode. Now, some of those did have fillers. I would say those were fillers, but it had like a continuous theme. Now, what this one is, what Strange New Worlds is doing, and like I said, we're going back to the more of the episodic, to where you're having like different little things happening. So you're focusing on different characters on each episode. I mean, it still ties into the larger story,
Right.
but it's just going to put emphasis on different things. Like this happened to be Spock's, because it's like from the first episode, you got smatterings of, because I mean, Spock's always, he's going to be an integral character, period. But this one, but yeah, the whole Freaky Friday thing, I was just like, because I knew right then and there, I was like, okay, well, you're trying to get to know from her different perspectives. I'm like, okay, shit's about to go south real quick.
Which
And-
you needed to tell part of her story, because if they're, fiancés, then like you need more of her now.
And that's what's so interesting with, especially dealing with Vulcans, because you have to dig deep with that, because Vulcans are very non-emotional. And that's the thing that Spock's always fought with since he was half and half. And I thought it was very interesting. But to me, this whole episode was just very interesting unto itself. It was just kind of like it was breaking stereotypes.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's maybe one thing that actually did kind of bother me about this was the Spock and his I can't remember his fiance's name. They're kind of back and forth a little bit. Bothered me some, where she was the whole.
Dude, she was a
She even
bitch.
says you're supposed to put your relationship above work. Yeah, when you work a 9-to-5 job and you have a family at home and stuff like that, but when you're part of something bigger like Starfleet, the military, your spouse needs to understand that you don't have a choice sometimes in doing this. Like when you don't come home because you're doing this, it's not because you don't want to. It's because you were told you have to do this. And that's a very emotional response for her to have, being a Vulcan.
But that was
finally
also
on
in
Earth.
like the Vulcan, like the Vulcan train of thought, because they're very like,
It's true.
they kind of like stay there. It's like you see a lot more of this, like for the Enterprise throughout that series, because that was like the first alien race that the humans met were the Vulcans. And the Vulcans are very, it's almost like, I don't say nationalistic, but they stay in their own sphere. Anything outside of their sphere, it is beneath them, because it's all about logic. Anybody that's, does not use logic on their level, they feel like they're inferior.
Right.
So it's almost like, she was looking at Spock where, okay, I'm trying to see you as a Vulcan, but you're kind of tainted with your human side, and that's where she's kind of looking at Starfleet and the Federation, is because that's taking precedence over his Vulcan side, to where that means more to her because that's just within their race.
And I can get that. It's just,
That
I
makes
don't
any
know.
sense.
No, I totally get that. And the thing is, I understand her feeling. I really do. It's just one of those things that, being in the military, having a military spouse and everything else, and I just understand. It's like, okay, I get where you're coming from, and I hate to say it, but you just kind of need to shut up because there's nothing
And
I can
that's
do
what
about it.
happens a lot of times,
There's
with
nothing I can do about it.
relationships,
So,
period. I mean, it's, you feel like one is more important than the other.
right.
And I've kind of had the same issue here, even though I'm not in the military. But it's like, dude, you got to see both sides. You got to have, compromise. You've got to meet in the middle. And I think that was one of the things that they had to, she had to kind of learn, because the Vulcans are hard headed.
Yeah.
Ask Bones, he'll tell you all, you cold hearted green bastard. I mean, it's basically that kind of thing.
Goblin blooded bastard.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg, to your point though, that's basically what she's mad about, is that she is a spouse to something else, and logic for her doesn't mean that matters worth a crap.
Right.
And it's not that she's not seeing it, but it's also, it just doesn't mean anything, because Vulcans don't need Starfleet.
No.
They choose to work for the greater good.
Okay.
They choose to work together with Starfleet for the greater good of the universe. Well, I guess galaxies, but yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Hey, is the nurse kind of a whore?
This Nurse Chapel iteration is a lot different than the original Nurse Chapel.
But I like it.
No, yeah, I mean, she apparently has this girl on some planet. She had this guy here on this leaf shore. She seemed to be kind of making eyes at Spock a little bit.
Absolutely.
Like, she seems like that kind of person you just don't want around. I don't know. Well, not around, but like, I don't know.
She's like a very free spirit.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
For a scientist too.
Nothing ties me down type thing. Which is cool. If you're cool with that and the person you're with is cool with that, that's fine. It's no problem with that. But it's just,
well, you're traveling throughout the galaxy. You on all these different planets. I mean, why not? If you're not grounded, or if you're not in,
that's the trucker
having a
mentality,
significant
right?
other. I mean, why not sample the?
There you go. Have they ever mentioned Enterprise Bingo before?
That part of this show was really fun, and as much as the other part seemed difficult, and it was the simple fact that they put it so heavy in front of your face, like they're the no fun governors, right? So what do you do at that point when you just mystically find out that all of a sudden you're no fun?
Yeah.
Where fun dies.
And there's all this stuff going on that you had no idea was going on.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Do all of it.
You know what happens normally on a ship?
Yeah. It made me feel like when I find something out my daughters are doing, and then like I have example, we'll be in the car, a song will come on. My daughters will know every word to the song, and I'm like, I have never heard this before in my life. Not once. Not even ever can think of hearing this before, and they know every word to it. And it's kind of like that. It's feeling like you're kind of parents. You're kind of out of the loop. You're old. And she mentioned because we're senior command. That's because you're older than everybody else.
Well, you also have more to worry about, once again.
True. Yeah, a
but
little bit.
It was really fun watching the two of them just like let loose on it and have fun. And then like when one was like, I think we probably have done enough. Like, no, we're doing the whole entire thing.
Yeah. That's when like the OCD kicks in. It's like, we're going to check all these boxes.
And what was funny about the whole thing to me is when they were saying that, that they're no fun, that they never leave the ship. We started off this show with number one leading her own mission while the ship was in space dock getting repaired. And so she was already off the ship. She didn't hang out with it then. So how often is this an occurrence? I mean, is it just like maybe she's okay when you have months to go do something? Or if you only have like a week or two off, then they're going to hang back. Just found it strange that you would have that kind of
Well,
call it out after starting it off like
well, it's
that.
giving you a lot of inference. Like this is something that we're gonna go. Even though you haven't seen it, we're just gonna mention a couple of things and saying, hey, since we've known each other, or this, that, and other, and it's just you're supposed to just know that.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
True.
It didn't make sense to me. Captain's green shirt.
I know, right?
Never
I'm
seen
like,
a
how
green
do you
shirt
get to wear
before.
that?
Which did make me wonder why. I always wondered why you never saw green. Seems like a pretty prime color to use for stuff like this.
Sure.
Never seen a green shirt before. I like it. You know what?
He wears it
They just
well.
came out with a new green iPhone. They were trying to stay with the times. That's what it was.
And I really
Apple
love
does it, we'll
Pike
do it.
because Pike is like, at some point he's like just super like right there front and center, like oozing command, just like and then some days, and then in other it's like I have no idea what in the hell's going on right now.
Yeah.
But he was still really fun and assertive and in charge throughout
He's
this
very
episode.
intuitive as well.
Yes, like I get the whole like I'm playing a hunch. Like, man, like if everyone around this place playing hunches, everyone would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's interesting when it's very Kirk, right? It works for me, but not for you. So
yeah. Dang, I had something I wanted to say about these. Oh yeah. So every episode so far has been kind of a focus on like one main character, and then there's like a story with everybody else in it. But this one was a little different. This one was about equal time for just about every character. It gave you a little story. It teamed most of them up and gave you kind of a story with just about every character in this one. So we've gotten to that because this is the halfway point, right? This is episode 5, so we're halfway. So maybe that's why it seemed like a little bit of filler to me. Because that's usually
you're starting to see like how everything's starting to tie together. It's like all the interaction of like the crew, how it's everybody's starting to come together. Yeah. So it's like all those like little background stories of where it's even with Uhura, even though that was like a few episodes ago, you're seeing her more so in a lot of these episodes as like the communications officer.
Yeah,
she's learning. Like dude, I actually think they do a really good job showing how well she's just sitting back and learning. Mm-hmm. And then getting her hands dirty and learning, but then like in this episode she just sat back and watched the whole thing happen.
Yeah. Well, this week was kind of like a bye week for everybody in football. Like the first 4 shows, it was getting the team together and figuring out what everybody's capable of. Now they're going to have their bye week this week with kind of the nothing to do, and then from here on out they're recharged and to push for the playoffs.
But to be honest, I mean, I felt like what they were kind of the theme of this episode I thought was super important because it was having that different point of view. Like I said, it was what especially with the I can't remember the race that they were trying to negotiate with. It was because I remember I wrote this down because I can't remember shit. But talking about how it was radical empathy. Mm-hmm. Because this day and age, people are not very empathetic to what's going on. You don't really read the room. It's like, it's my way or the highway. It's what I want to do. It's like I don't really give a shit about anybody else. And I think this episode really kind of, and to me, I felt like it was very along the lines of the Star Trek thing, of what Star Trek kind of stands for.
Yep. Very true.
And I mean, and that's probably something that within the Star Trek fandom, like I said, it's the same thing with Star Wars. You have this ideal that you feel like this is what it was created for. This is kind of what it stands for. But then you have the other people that, there's probably a lot of people that are like, oh, this is some bullshit. Not like filler, but I'm saying, just like this is a bullshit episode. They're trying to cram this shit down your throat and blah blah blah. I'm like, dude. I mean, this is getting back to what I feel like more of like Star Trek roots.
Okay.
Oh, wait till we ever again get a holodeck episode, a full 100% holodeck episode, because you want to talk about like filler episodes.
Yeah, because there's like
those were some filler.
Okay.
Well, you don't have like detective stories and shit like that.
Yeah.
What was Picard's character's name? Dixon.
Oh, I can't remember.
Or even from Voyager with Paris and Kim when they were like the sci-fi guys.
Hold on. So there's a whole episode where there's just a holodeck?
Yeah,
What
they
do you
get
mean?
caught on the hell. There's like a couple of
Episodes.
episodes where they actually literally get caught on the
Yeah.
trapped on the holodeck.
They do full episodes where they're like in the 20s.
Yeah,
And, you know, I mean, like it's
like
multiple.
Riker, he fell for like a freaking hologram. That chick. I mean, I was like, what? Okay, Riker.
I mean, whatever works.
Love is
for 'em, you
real,
know?
even if the person isn't.
That's right. All right. Well, I think that's all the notes I got for this week's. You know, and like I said, I don't want to talk trash about the show. I like the show. This was just, I don't know, maybe I was expecting that's what it is. It comes down to my expectations.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's what you have pretty much been exposed to when it comes to what you know of Star Trek.
Right.
Because you know the Kelvin timeline movies. You know, I think basically the only old, you know, any like original series movies like Wrath of Khan. That's like the only one that I think you've seen previous. But everything else, you know, it's like either Discovery, you know, Picard, you know, that kind of thing. And like I said, it's been eons since you've actually had, you know, any kind of episodic, you know, what has it's traditionally been. And I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, I think it's great. Any story told is, you know, something better than what I had before. But it's just a different.
It's also a matter of it's not always the end of the world. It's not always the end of the universe. It's not always, you know, like there are just normal days too.
Sometimes it's just a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, but that's what's so cool about it. It's like, you know, talking about that. It's interesting for me to, you know, hear, you know, Greg, your perspective on it, because it's, you know, that's just something that I've, you know, it's ingrained in me. So I think it's really cool, and it's interesting to see your perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely got to be going back to the roots and the stuff. Because like I said, I've seen quite a bit lately. And the only thing I have seen that hasn't had really action in it is Lower Decks, which I wasn't expecting.
Lower Decks is unto its little, it's its own little world.
Right. But I mean, Picard, there was a lot of action in Picard from what I've seen. Discovery, you know, all the Calvin timeline movies, Wrath of Khan had a little bit in there. And so far up to this point, there's been a little bit of action or some kind of, you know, so I guess for me, it was just this is what I expect.
Right.
You know, it's like when I watch a Star Wars movie, I don't expect to not see a blaster or a stormtrooper or a lightsaber. Like, or I should see one of those three things, you know, in action. So
it's like Star Trek. You don't know, you always see a phaser, but we got to see him this time.
There was one this time. That's right. That's right. Lowest setting. So, what were they doing? Like a draw?
I think so, because I had like in the lower setting, and I thought it was kind of funny. She got hit, and then she's like, "Ow, that's stun." I'm like, "Yeah, stun setting. What do you expect?"
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got for Star Trek. One more thing. The actor who plays Spock looks totally different without the Spock ears. Like a different person without the Spock ears. It's crazy how just that little bit will change.
Well, he looked personally, honestly, in my opinion, when you first meet him in Discovery, when he had kind of like more shaggy with the beard, I'm like, can we go back to that Spock? Because especially in Discovery, then, you know, you see him like that and you're like, ooh, this is a different little and then he gets all clean cut and you're like,
damn, he's back. I like the other one better. He's
like,
boyfriend
like
Spock versus husband
with a nice
Spock.
beard, right? A lot to be said about a nice beard. But
and it's like Panther Pickle was saying, it's like Spock, he never really got any play. I'm like, well, he gets some play in this one.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I think that what was was it the other Vulcan? Was that a Vulcan that he had to go talk to as his fiance?
I think so. Yeah.
And so when you see like the difference like in their ears, like, you know, that Vulcan had like real fat ears, and like it's odd how many different times that different ways that they can show the differences in them rather than like just the face, like all the features. You don't think ears are like a major feature. I mean, you meet people who have like wide ears, but yeah, true too.
I'm just wondering if we get to see any Romulans.
They mentioned them in this episode, right?
They did. And Romulans have always been they're
like the cousins.
Chaotic Vulcans, so.
That's the ones that Bana played in the first movie. Okay.
The Vulcan, I mean, not the Vulcans, the Romulans basically look the same, except they have more of a ridge right here. So they still have
look
like
a lot meaner.
Oh yeah, they do. They more have like what I mean, I guess I can just basically go off what I've seen as far as like Next Generation and all that, because normally it was more kind of set. I mean, they look like Vulcans, but like I said, you can just, there's just like a little bit different ridge. But I wonder if we ever see any Klingons. I wonder what the iteration of Klingons will look like in this one.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's been a couple different ones.
in Into Darkness, I didn't mind it. A lot of people had kind of like problems with it. I guess because you grew up with, Next Generation, and when you have Worf and that whole species, and then they go and change it,
and that took a definite turn.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Discovery. I mean, even when they introduced those Klingons, I mean, they looked different. It's just because they didn't have hair.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they had hair, you're like, okay, I get that. But they've come a long way since the original series.
Were there Romulans in the last season of Discovery when they time jumped?
Yes, because it was Picard. Picard had Romulans. The first season of Picard had Romulans.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, because I'm saying I remember them being somewhere.
Because there was that one dude. What was the one that? Well, because what's his face was Romulan. Oh God, the one that died. Long hair. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
In Picard?
Yeah, Picard. The one that Rafi was all about.
Yeah. Eleanor.
So he's Romulan.
Oh.
You know what I just thought about too? I was going over the whole thing in my head about how his wife, with the whole "you're putting your job in front of me" type thing. I forgot they're betrothed. They didn't choose. They didn't choose to get married. So she didn't walk into that with that choice. So that does make a little more sense with her being a little more upset about it, with them being betrothed and her not being like they didn't meet and fall in love.
Yeah, they have to be compatible.
Right. So okay, that makes a little more sense to me now. Just think about that.
She got a little more expectation.
Yeah, there you go. They gave me. That's all I need is explanation to satisfy my expectations. Right.
There you go.
All I need. I'm not asking for. I'm not a very smart guy. It's not hard to please me. I'm not a very smart guy. So. All right. All the notes I got. Look, man, I got these pads, which are perfect for taking notes for podcasts. I bought a bunch of them the other day for like 10 cents a piece. It was awesome. It's like, hell yeah, give me a bunch of them. It's already halfway filled up. One show takes a lot of notes. But all right, y'all. We got anything else this week? We got the comic. We had all the shows. Ross, let me know when you see Top Gun, because we'll really dive into it then. And Sarah, let me know when you see The Boys, especially after you see the first episode with Termite.
That's what I see, because I'm like, oh God, do I need to like?
Yeah, watch the
I'm
Termite.
afraid, dude. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I about to see? Am I like going to be like visually damaged?
You got to go there. You got to go there.
I know. I mean, I know this. I know this, but I'm just
because here's what happens. Something gets said, and you're like, no. But then an action is different than what gets said. What your brain automatically goes into.
Right.
And then you're like,
right.
oh
right.
God.
Oh, and Ross, by the
Okay.
way, have you gotten? You said you were an episode and a half in. Have you gotten to the point where Homelander visits?
Yes.
What's her name
Yes.
yet? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Anakin Skywalker.
What the fuck? Yeah. Holy shit! This show is so crazy. That show is so effing crazy. Like, oh, and you haven't got a third episode yet, Ross. Oh man, yeah. Let me know. Oh, I'm telling you, I can't wait to talk to you about this one. It's gonna be good.
I'm probably gonna finish it tonight or in the morning. So.
Yeah, I thought there were only 2 episodes out. So like, I finished the second episode, and I was about to message y'all, be like, "Yeah, I'm all watched up." And then the next one started playing. I was like, "Wait a second." I was like, "Is the whole season out?" And I saw it was only the first 3. I was like, "Well, I might as well watch the last one."
Yeah, I'll probably end up getting up early. Probably, like I said, either tomorrow morning or Sunday morning, and probably just plant myself in the couch and just be like, "Go ahead and just."
You will like it. Just
all right, let's go ahead and just dive in.
Make sure.
Hope I won't break my neck.
Dive in. Just dive in.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, we got it here.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Another Friday night in the books. Cool. Sarah, where can I find you at?
You can find me on the Twitter at My Lady Kitten. I'm bouncing around there somewhere. You might find me on TikTok every now and again too. You never know.
Ross, anywhere but here, right? Because isn't that how people use that phrase? Anywhere but here.
Anywhere but here. Anywhere but here.
Yeah. It's so weird. I still don't understand that phrase. Like, no, it's actually here and not anywhere else. But okay.
Yes.
Here
Yeah.
but nowhere.
That's right. Here but nowhere else. And you can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter is my personal handle. At GCS Podcast 1 is the show handle. Give us a like, give us a review, give us a share. Come on the show. Be part of the chat room. We like to try to interact with people in the chat and get the stuff up here. Give us some ideas, stuff you want to watch, and share with a friend. It's always fun. But
check out Purple Eyes on Kickstarter.
Check out Purple Eyes on Kickstarter. That's right. I'll have all that stuff in the show description. Links to all the work and all the other stuff. He had the 3 anthologies he has before that. Phillip, you're still listening, or if you're listening now, man, I appreciate you coming on. And I guess until next week. Later, skaters.
Bye, guys.
Later.
I got to come up with a new one.